In this lesson, I want to show you how we can use JavaScript to update our CSS on our HTML web page. So we already have a web page and we've got some basic elements here, and let's say we want to update the footer, update that background color of the footer, and make our selection and maybe change the font color as well. So let's take a look at JavaScript and see how we can accomplish that. So the first thing that we need to do is identify that element. So we're going to do document, and we have a number of different ways to access it. So we can give it an ID and so on, or we could just use query selector. So again, depending on how you're structuring your classes, your IDs, and so on, sometimes it's easier to just add in that ID and get element by ID. But in this case, I think that we can go with query selector because this is probably going to be one of the easiest ways, so we don't have to do any updating to the HTML. So let's do query selector, and in this case we're doing footer. So footer is the tag, and it's got the class of clear. So now that we've selected that element, so just take a quick look, make sure that we've selected the right element, we can update the style of that element. So we can actually return this value back. So first of all, let's just go into the console log, double check that we've picked up that correct element, and see actually what's contained within the style. So when I refresh it into the console, so footer is not actually defined. So let's go back into our code here and take a better look and see why we're not able to pick that up. Of course, I forgot the brackets there, so that was the reason that it's not able to identify it, because we got a bracket around it. So now let's go back in here and we can see that we've picked up all of this information for styling. So quite a lot of information. There's a list over here at w3.org. So same thing here, the full list of all the available styling values and how you can apply styling. So we see that we've got really a lot of information here. We can set things like the background color and so on. So maybe let's just take that one and update that background color. So I'm going to copy, paste it, and I'm going to do some copy and pasting here. So we've got that entire object. I know it's a very long set of values here. So we've got our document, we're doing a query selector, and then we're settling the style value of that object that's being returned, and now background color. And now at the end of this, we can specify and we can say something like yellow. And now let's open up our web page and see what happens here to the footer. And we see that we got this style of yellow that's being added in. When I open up my web dev tools, I see I've got a background of yellow that's been added in. So it's as easy as that to make a selection and update any of the styling there. And as you can see, once again, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do here. We can update the colors, the font colors as well. We can add in margins. So anything you can think of using HTML, we can add those in as well. So if we want to do something like margin top or something, we can really easily do the same thing here where we do document, margin top, and here we can specify the number of pixels that we want to move it. 25 pixels, margin top, go back out, refresh the page. We see now our element here has a margin of 25 pixels that's been added in. And this is all dynamically done through JavaScript. And of course, we can really shorten this by creating a variable that holds that value there. So we could do variable footer, just to do that lowercase footer value, and let's just put this object in here. And then now all we need to do is do footer value there, footer value there, and footer value there, and it's going to be the same value. So it's going to be the same thing. Let's open up our browser just to double check, and it is the same effect there. So there are also different ways to set these properties, the style properties. So we can also do something like, so instead of adding it in there so that we have that same object that we can work with, so footer value, So this is the object, the basic object, and we also have another option here where we can set an attribute. So it adds a new attribute or changes the value of an existing attribute by a specified value. And this actually gives us the ability to specify multiple values within style and of course other attributes as well. So it's going to make sure that we quote around it to be specific to what attribute we want to set. So that's the first property there. The second one is if we want to do something like font size or something like that. So we can specify the font size, and let's do color as well. So color, and we'll change the color to be red, and just save that end of the statement there with the colon. And now let's see what happens. So we see that now we've got access to color, font size. We've updated those as well within that element, and we could just as easily continue to add in additional ones as needed. So just separate it by the semicolon. So we could do something like background color and so on. So we could add in the background color yellow here. And that would give us the ability to remove these ones out. So just cut those ones down there, and we can add in that background color. So we've got the background color there, but it's an undefined property name. So we need to make sure that we're defining our background color in the proper format. So let's jump back into our code there. And actually background color is going to be dash color there like this. Let's take a look at this now, and this time we got that right. So the background color is a dash color there. So there are different ways to access it using the attributes, setting the different style attributes, or just accessing the style directly. So either way, this gives you options to update your CSS as long as you pick out the correct element, add in the correct styling options, and make those updates within what the content that's being presented to your user. So in the next set of lessons, we're going to show you some even more cool stuff you can do with the DOM, and that's all coming up.